All right, so get ready because today we are diving headfirst into the Saw franchise, specifically Saw 3,
Oh, yeah.
which, yeah, it's got that rep, for being the goriest one.
Yeah.
But stick with us on this one. We're going
Yeah.
deep. We've got this seriously in-depth analysis we're working with today, and we're going to pick it apart to figure out, is Saw 3 just pure gore for the sake of it, or is there something more going on under the surface?
It's a question for the ages, right?
Right. It's a question a lot of people have, a lot of Saw fans have debated. Okay, so right off the bat, Saw 3, it just throws us right back in. No messing around. Picks up right where Saw 3 left off.
Yeah, no easing into it.
Detective Matthews. Still stuck in that bathroom.
Yep.
We're all on the same page still, right? Good. Because here's where things get really, really interesting, I think. So Saw 3, it tries to do something a little different, right? Keeps that intensity cranked up. But we also get these dual narratives going.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got Jeff, who's dealing with the loss of his son. And then on the other side, you've got Dr. Lynn Denlin, who, well, let's just say she gets a crash course in Jigsaw's messed up games.
Yeah, you could say that.
Right?
Yeah.
So what do you think? Is that where the franchise starts to kind of evolve a bit?
It's definitely a shift, right? It's not just about, those immediate life or death stakes anymore. Now we're looking at the ripple effect of Jigsaw's actions, like the psychological torment, the stuff that reaches way beyond those traps.
Exactly. And that's where all those those big things, the grief and forgiveness, even redemption, all that starts to come in.
Yeah.
Although I guess you could say it's explored with all the subtlety of a reverse bear trap.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not the most delicate approach,
Right.
but hey, it gets the point across. And we are still talking about a Saw film here.
Oh, yeah.
Brutality. That's practically part of the brand.
Oh, absolutely. Case in point, that whole limb-twisting trap. Oh, my God.
Brutal.
Taking it to a whole other level. And the analysis we're looking at, it actually points out, as gruesome as that trap is, it really shows just how much the filmmakers are trying to, one-up themselves.
Yeah.
It's not just about the gore itself, but how that gore, feeds into these bigger ideas, choice, consequence, all that.
Right.
But here's the other thing. Saw the Third doesn't just, crank up the violence. It also, peels back the layers on Jigsaw himself a bit.
Yeah.
We see him at his most vulnerable in this one, battling cancer, thinking about the choices he's made. This is John Kramer, the man behind the mask.
Right.
And honestly, I think it makes those games even more disturbing. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely, because it's instead of just this, I don't know, mythical boogeyman figure, right?
Yeah.
We're seeing his human side. He's got regrets. And suddenly, all those twisted little games, they hit way harder because this is a real person. The analysis said, they made him relatable. And that's terrifying because now his whole philosophy, as messed up as it is, it feels something someone could actually believe.
And that brings us to Amanda. Talk about a complicated character, right?
Oh, for sure.
I mean, she's devoted to Jigsaw, clearly. But Saw Third, I think, really makes you question if she's actually truly following his whole philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Is she a true believer, or is there something else driving her?
I mean, that's the million-dollar question right there. And the analysis does make some interesting points about these little inconsistencies in her behavior, like how sometimes her actions totally contradict Jigsaw's own teachings. It's almost like she's got her own agenda.
And that's where this deep dive gets really interesting.
Yeah, and it really makes you think about her character in a whole new light.
Oh, totally.
Because on the surface, she's totally devoted,
Yeah.
right? But underneath, it's what's going on in her head? It's kind of terrifying when you think about it. And the analysis actually, it argues that it's Amanda's storyline that really makes that whole forgiveness theme hit home. Oh,
Interesting.
okay.
Because with her, it's not just about whether she can forgive, the people who've wronged her, right?
Yeah.
But can she forgive herself
Exactly.
for the stuff she's done?
For the choices she's made, yeah.
Yeah.
And that complexity, I think that's what makes her such a fascinating character. More than just, Jigsaw's sidekick or whatever.
Right. Are we even supposed to like her? Or are we supposed to hate her? It's kind of left up in the air. And that's effective filmmaking right there.
Oh, yeah, big time.
But let's be real. As much as Saw the Third wants to be about these huge, philosophical ideas, it doesn't always quite get there, does it?
Yeah, I mean, you got to admire the effort, right? Trying to balance all those insane traps with actual, genuine emotion. It mostly works, but yeah, there are moments where it's the pacing feels a little off. Or the storylines, they don't quite, mesh as well as they could.
Right. And then there's the whole believability thing. Like, come on. Could Jigsaw and Amanda really pull all this off? Especially with Jigsaw as sick as he is.
Yeah, that's a common criticism for sure.
I mean, at a certain point, you just got to, suspend your disbelief. I don't know. What do you think? Does that take you out of it at all, or are you able to just kind of go with it?
I mean, it's Saw, right? It's always pushed the limits.
That's true.
And Saw at the Hall, they really went for it.
Oh, totally. But you got to hand it to them, those endings, though.
Oh,
those
yeah.
Classic Saw twist endings. Always get you. No spoilers, but that final reveal, total game changer.
Absolutely. And in true Saw fashion, it's like, just when you think you've got it all figured out, boom.
Rug pulled out from under you.
Exactly. And then, to make it worse, it leads to even more questions. That's
Right.
their thing. Provide closure, or at least you think it's closure, and then, bam, open the door for a whole bunch of other stuff.
So much for a nice, tidy ending.
I'm not going to find one of those in Jigsaw's world.
Yep.
He's all about keeping you guessing, even from beyond the grave.
It really is like the ultimate game, isn't it? But before we go too far down that rabbit hole, I kind of want to go back to something the analysis touched on. That whole thing with Jigsaw's vulnerability. I don't know, seeing him like that, grappling with his own mortality, his regrets, all that, it really made me wonder, like, what if he had survived? This is Saw third. What if he'd lived? Do you think someone like that, someone so obsessed with their own twisted sense of, like, justice, could they ever actually find redemption?
Man, that is the question, right? And it's definitely something the film, it wants you to think about that.
Right.
Because you see it, Those little glimmers of humanity, the regret in his eyes. Like, maybe he even wanted a connection. But then you remember everything he did, all the pain he caused, just to prove a point.
Right. It's like, is there even a coming back from that? And I think that's what makes Saw third and honestly, the whole franchise so interesting. It doesn't give you those easy answers. Mm-hmm. It makes you deal with those uncomfortable things about people. Like our potential for good and evil, and how blurry that line can get sometimes.
It's like the analysis said, this isn't just horror. It's like, I don't know, a morality play.
Right.
All twisted and messed up. But it makes you judge yourself too, Makes you question what you believe.
So where do you land on that? Jigsaw. Could he have found redemption? Or was it too late for that? Was John Kramer, was he really as messed up as it sounds? Was he a victim of his own game? Let us know what you think. That's it for this deep dive on Saw the Third. Hope you survived the experience. Until next time, keep questioning, keep digging, and for goodness sake, stay out of those traps.